I'm going to be showing you how to make my grandma's homemade buns. You're gonna need like a big pot thing. This is where at first just the dry ingredients go, and then you mix the wet ingredients into that. This is just where everything's gonna go. It needs to be big, so they have room to rise. And I'm making six to 8 dozen of these, so ignore these big numbers. So we need 11 cups of flour, 2 cups of sugar, 1.5 handfuls of salt for the dry ingredients, which I've got there. They're mixed, they're all good. Then for the wet ingredients, we need 3 cups of warm water, 3 eggs, and half a cup of oil, and then the yeast. The yeast is rising. That takes 10 to 15 minutes. At the moment, it's taking 20. It's because we usually use a smaller one. To make the yeast, you need 4.5 cups of dry yeast. This is the stuff we use. Half a cup of warm water and 11 cups of flour. You get all those in there. You mix. Don't leave anything out. Just mix it a whole bunch, and then you gotta wait a while for it to mix. And you need a big flat surface to. That's for later. I'll explain that later. I didn't get much of making the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients and getting those together. But here's that. Here's me mixing it together. Going crazy. Those are mixing the dry ingredients. Here's my mom making the yeast. You can add a handful of sugar. I forgot to mention that before for making it taste good. There's a thumbs up. Here's me getting out the eggs, mixing the wet ingredients together. I'm just a pro mixer at this point. Mixing the yeast and the other wet ingredients together. Get all that in there. Then you gotta, here's where you get your 3 cups of warm water. You get those. You use the same thing they used to make the yeast, so you can get you need every single bit of the yeast in there. Can't have none of that out. You gotta mix it together, pour it in. Look at me go. And here's my mom mixing all that together. She's also a pro mixer. Then mixing it all together. Just make sure you get it all around. Now comes the part where you mix the wet and dry ingredients all together. This will definitely take 10, 15, 20 minutes. You gotta go at it for as long as you can with a spoon. Make sure it'll get like super sticky to the point to where you have to use your hands. Make sure to wash your hands so you don't get anything in there that you're not supposed to get in there. And grab a stick of butter. You will need more later, but for now just grab one. And get it in the mixture on the sides and on the lids. And the reason that you get on the sides and the bottom as well is to make sure it doesn't like stick to it whenever it rises up. You want to mix it together to where you don't feel any more grains of flour or any of the dry ingredients, so it's just a big plump of bun dough. Once you do get to that state, just use whatever butter is left and butter up the sides and the top. Just add extra layers. Once you're done doing that, periodically check in. Since we did the smaller batch, it shouldn't rise that high, but around 6 or 5 hours later, it should be good enough to where you can form it. You'll need wax sheets the size of the pans that you're going to use to put in the oven whenever you cook the buns. And we thought we were going to make 8 dozen, so we got 8 sheets out. Make sure to get another stick of butter out so you can butter up your hands. When you're cutting it out, you want to make sure it's big enough to fit in your palm, and you can't have it any bigger. Now place it in your non-dominant hand, and on the edges do little folds over your fingers to flatten out the bun. I was doing it very wrong here. Don't stretch it out like that. Now flip it over, pinch, push down, and twist it, kind of like a dumpling. Keep doing that until the top of the bun is super smoothed out and it looks like a small bun. Now flip it back over again and then place it on the sheet and lightly press down on it to compress it onto the sheet. Keep doing this until there is no more bun dough left in your pot. It's much easier to do it with family or friends, so it gets done quicker. Here's my family and I finishing up with that. Now you want to cover them with clean white towels and let them rise overnight. Now in the morning, you're going to want to set your oven between 325 and 350 degrees and let that heat up. Once that's ready to go, you want to slide a sheet of buns onto a pan. Whenever you cook it, you should probably cook it for about 19 or 20 minutes. Once that's done, get a warm stick of butter out and a butter brush to spread the butter onto the buns. Make sure you spread it really well on the sides and on the top. Once you're done, pour them onto a clean towel and move on to the next until there are no more. And that's how you make my grandma's homemade buns. I hope you enjoy them.